officially welcome to the National Indo-American Museum's Taste of India. Let me just introduce myself here. All right. My name is Jitesh Jaggi. I'm the program coordinator and office manager for the National Indo-American Museum. Today, we are conducting our Taste of India program, our culinary immigrant show that we do online. The National Indo-American Museum, for those who are new to us, or NIAM, builds bridges across generations and connects cultures through the diverse, colorful stories of all Indian Americans. We are a museum, a heritage institution that is from Indian Americans, but is for everyone who is interested in our culture. So some of you have already attended Taste of India in the past. For some, it's for the first time, in which case, welcome. And for our regular visitors, welcome again. Today, we have a very, very special presentation for you. We have Spice Waala from Seattle. We have not had anybody representing that part of the country before, so we are really, really excited to have one of the really from what I'm reading, one of the best restaurants in Seattle right now. And you will know by the end of the show why, and maybe you'll be booking a reservation soon. There are still more people joining in, and it seems like a good crowd. We have about 25 people, but I know more are joining. Before I start with the official introductions, quick house rules. You will see that this session is being recorded. But if you don't want to show your face, that's fine. You can switch the camera off. If you want to, feel free to leave the camera on. You will also notice that you are on mute. This is just so we can make this session like manageable. However, you as an audience member do have a voice in the chat box. Feel free to go off. Feel free to talk to each other, talk to me, talk to the host, which is me, talk to our guest chefs, talk to each other, that's fine. Any questions you might have throughout the session and at the end, you can also ask them in the chat. And we will start now. Let me now introduce you to our special guest for the day. Aakanksha Sinha, originally from New Delhi, Aakanksha has a master's and PhD in social work from Boston College with a focus on food justice. Previously, Aakanksha was a professor at Seattle University, but has just recently moved to Casey Family Programs as their senior director of research. Aakanksha brought her love for chaats, same, and other street food and her Bihari heritage to Spice Waala. Welcome, Aakanksha. Thank you for joining us. I don't know how you're doing these many things at the same time, but we are very happy to have you today.
Thank you for having me.
We also have Uttam Mukherjee. Prior to Spice Waala, Uttam completed his MBA from Carnegie Mellon University and worked as a brand manager for Procter & Gamble for 6 years. Wow. After they moved to Seattle, Uttam moved full-time into Spice Waala. Growing up in Kolkata, Kathi rolls were second nature to him and has brought his version to Spice Waala. Welcome, Uttam, and we will talk more about your journey from marketing from Procter & Gamble to this, but we are so happy to have you today.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. We are so honored. Let me see if we have any more people joining. All right. Okay. So like I said, chats are open. I will quickly introduce what Taste of India is about before I pass on the mic to Uttam and Aakanksha. Taste of India, as a lot of you know, National Indo-American Museum is a national museum, but we are based currently in Chicago. So this used to be an actual food walk in the Devon Avenue neighborhood, also known as Little India. What we used to do is we would take these little groups on a walk around the neighborhood, and we would have these restaurants prepare sample meals. And we would feed our audience, and we would, while they're eating, we would introduce them to the food that they're currently tasting. What part of India it comes from, and what's the importance to the people? Like if it's South Indian food, what is its importance to people living in the South? of course, during the pandemic, we made this drastic move coming to you online. And in the future, we might go hybrid or this or that. We will see. But this year we did six. This is our sixth episode for the year. And we are so happy to be closing out with Spice Waala, actually. Um, so yeah, I just want to kind of let Uttam and Aakanksha in. Tell us a little bit about Spice Waala. How did you get started and why Indian cuisine?
Yeah, I mean, both of us have been, I mean, we're immigrants, obviously, in the US. I came to the country in 2007. Aakanksha came in 2010. And, we kept on finding that no matter where we lived in New Jersey, in Boston, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, and then finally Seattle also, there wasn't a lot of Indian cuisine that represented the food that we grew up with. There's a lot of your chicken tikka masala, saag paneer, naan, rice, etc. But there wasn't anything that really resonated with us. And a big part of our childhood growing up in India and across the world was street food.
Yeah.
And so that wasn't represented at all in Seattle, and even in a lot of other cities that we lived in, very, very sparse representation. So we really thought that street food was a big aspect for us to take on. I think the other thing that attracted us to street food was Aakanksha's background in social work and just how street food levels the playing field for everyone, because no matter where you come from, who you are, you're served the same food, the same quality at the same price. There's no barriers to entry really. So that kind of sung with us for our social justice mission. So when we moved to Seattle, we experimented at a farmer's market and got some feedback from customers, understood whether, how we were doing, what we needed to improve on. And then we launched our first restaurant in Seattle in April of 2019.
Oh, wow. So it's still recent. Uttam, I'm really interested what was the tipping point that led you to be a chef, restaurateur? Like what happened? Describe to me the day when you were like, marketing is not for me anymore. And I just want to eat street food and I want to serve street food.
Well, firstly, neither of us are chefs. That's the amazing part. Like, we don't have a culinary background. We don't have any restaurant industry experience or anything like that. I think I probably blame both of our fathers for their, their love for
cooking.
their continuous cooking, but their love for food also. I think we've always been a foodie family. We've always loved food, and being Bengali, it's second nature to us also. So I think that has always been in the back of our minds, and we've always had a passion for cooking for friends and family, and that just kind of blossomed into something else.
I think you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think for him, it was interesting because we were both doing full-time jobs and trying to run the business. And it was definitely exhausting to do all things. But if we had to grow Spice Waala to where it is right now and where we hope where it goes, someone had to take the plunge and really focus on growing the business. And I think with Uttam's background in business, and he looks at the operations side of Spice Waala, so I think it had to be him really focusing 100% and like driving this business. And I think by 2019, when we saw a ton of people coming and tapping into our restaurant as a place that's a cultural hub, something that builds community, I think we saw where we could grow. And I think that really pushed us to take the plunge and say, okay, let's one of us at least try and take this plunge and really put in our knowledge and skills into growing something that we're passionate about.
Yeah. And even with your background, Aakanksha, I wonder, like, with social work, have you brought that to Spice Waala? Like, I wonder if you're using Spice Waala, the restaurant, also almost like a vehicle for like serving the community or involving the community. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So I think when we started the restaurant, one of our main objectives was how do we bring Uttam's background in business and my background in social work together. And one of the ways that we thought is how do we integrate social justice values within our business model. So when we were a small pop-up kitchen, also pop-up in the farmers market, we started with like small donations and stuff like that to the community, really focusing on immigrant communities, focusing on housing, economic development, all of those pieces for ensuring that people get access to food. But when we moved into our brick and mortar, we said, how do we really integrate this into our business? So we curated a few things within our business model. So the first thing was really ensuring that all our employees are getting a living wage. So we make sure that we're paying them really well, which is something that's not very prevalent in the restaurant industry. The second thing is ensuring that all full-time employees have access to healthcare, because again, in the US right now, we do not have universal basic healthcare access. So ensuring that they have that. All our employees who are full-time are also profit sharing for us. So just making sure that if we are growing, they're incentivized and they're growing with us. And I think we also pay 2 weeks of paid time off, again, ensuring that people get time. We work really hard, so people need to decompress and spend time with their family and loved ones as well. And I think during COVID, something that we really started doing is we started this program called Bhojan, which means meal or feast in Hindi. Mm-hmm. And the whole idea was, how do we ensure that with the spread of COVID, there were a ton of people that became unemployed and food insecure all of a sudden. And what could we do to make sure that we are getting increased accessibility to food? So we tried talking to a lot of organizations, nonprofit organizations, and really trying to gather information. And we started a meal program, and we do 200 meals right now per week, where we're providing vegan and vegetarian meals every Tuesday to 200 community members per week. So I think we've hit how many?
23,000 meals so far.
Yeah.
Wow, that is remarkable. Also, who would have thought a sustainable business model that also treats their employees with respect? This is amazing, especially a breath of fresh air when you see just different American models working, and especially Uttam, with your corporate background, and to bring something that I'm assuming, did not necessarily see a lot in the wild, where employees are getting healthcare and living wages.
Not only do we not see it in the corporate world in general in any industry, but we also noticed that the people who were attracted to working with Spice Waala, they were attracted because of those reasons. So we've got a few people that firstly don't have any industry background, and they're willing to learn with us and grow with us. And then we have a lot of people who've also come from the industry, but they're looking for flexible schedules, looking for better pay, less stress, those kind of things. And that's important, right? Because at the end of the day, we can't be in the restaurant all the time serving every single meal. So we have to rely on our employees to be happy, to be healthy, mentally and physically, to be able to serve the food that we want to.
This is wonderful. This is so good to hear. Yeah, we have so many. Thank you for just like introducing yourself, but also I'm really excited to get some cooking started. For our audience here, you must have seen our social media posts, my emails probably, where if you want to join along while Uttam and Aakanksha are preparing, you have the ingredient list, feel free to do that. However, if you want to just sit back and relax and watch them do the work, we will send you the recipes later on. You can just kind of learn right now, and you can just watch them prepare it. Questions are welcome in the chat. I want to get the chat going. So here's the task for everyone here. Type in the chat box, where are you joining us from today? I'm from Chicago, so I'm going to type that. Feel free to introduce everyone, yourself. Let us know which part of the country are you joining in from. We have had some people even join from outside America. Oh, wow, we have someone from Gurgaon, India.
That's my parents.
Hi. No pressure, Aakanksha.
My in-laws and my parents are here, so there's a ton of pressure over here anyway.
Oh my God. We have someone from Seattle. So hi, hometown represent, Naperville, Illinois, New York. I love this. So we have people from all over the country and beyond. You will have the recipes regardless after the fact. I'm from Chicago, like I said, right now, but I come from Mumbai, and this cold is unbearable. So I was wondering if you could start with some masala chai.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Let's do this.
Right.
I'm going to switch this on. So just basics, I'm going to keep talking, but if anyone has questions, please feel free to jump in and type. First is milk. So we use low fat, but feel free to use something that's much more creamy. So usually we try and do a 1:2 ratio. So 1 cup milk and 2 cups of water. And what you're doing essentially is taking, and this is my mom's recipe, so I'm sorry if I mess this up. But what we try and do is just put milk and water into a steel pan. It works better than a non-stick pan. And then take 1 or 2 inches of ginger. It's especially really helpful during the winters. If you're in Chicago, Jitesh, this is great for you because it'll warm you up a little bit.
Yes, I can use some adrak chai. One question, Uttam, you can answer, Aakanksha, you can. A question from the audience is, were the meals that you served during COVID, etc., some free meals that you served, were they Indian? Did you have to make adjustments in the flavors for people you were serving?
No, so we purposely decided to serve Indian food because we felt like there was a lot of Asian representation in Seattle that were going through the same COVID challenges, but weren't getting access to basic things that they're used to, like chai, rice and lentils and those kind of things. And then we were also very inspired by gurudwaras and the meals that they serve all the time also. So we decided to simplify what we were serving, but provide very nutritious meals. And so we do things like rajma chawal. We do things like chole and rice. We do ishtu, vegetable ishtu and rice. So it's those kind of things. We do dal and rice also. So it's those kind of things that we serve. We were trying to complicate it in the beginning, but we decided to simplify it because it's very easy for the partners that we give it to then serve, a spoon of rice and a spoon of the curry or whatever we're serving with it.
Yeah. Thank you, Uttam. While multitasking, we can see the other camera angle as well. Go ahead, Aakanksha.
Yeah, no, the only thing I added while Uttam was talking was some cardamom also. So I added some ginger, pounded some ginger, and then added some cardamom. And what we're going to do is it takes a little bit of time to boil. So I'm going to move this over and let it boil for a bit. I would give it about 5 minutes to boil. Please watch out that it doesn't overboil and spill everywhere, which is something typical that happens with me every morning. So I would just watch out for the flame and just keep it on a medium flame while this is boiling. I'm going to move this.
Our audience wants to see the cardamom. Do you crush it? Do you?
I crushed it. I can do a little bit more if that's helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So I would take around 3 or 4 pods and then just put it in water and then just pound it. Okay.
Wonderful.
And then put that in. I'm not going to add it in because I already added some cardamom, so it'll just get over flavored otherwise.
I see. And vegan option for milk, it doesn't change if you add cardamom? Does it have the same flavorful effect? I
haven't honestly tried a vegan milk with it. I'm guessing I've been having oat milk recently. I'm guessing that'll be fine. Yeah. But I like to have my tea in the most traditional way possible. So it'll always have the regular milk. But if you want to do it without milk completely, we would have it with just black tea, and then you can put cardamom and ginger in it.
One thing you should note, Jitesh, is that we unfortunately have an electric stove, so the cooking times and everything will be very, very different from a gas stove at home if you have that. So just keep that in mind.
That's a good note to add. Yes. How much milk did you put there, Aakanksha?
So I put half a cup of milk and then 1.5 cups of water.
Got it. And do you cover the pot, or do you just leave it open?
I just let it go. So I don't cover the pot. If you want to boil it faster, you can cover the pot, but we don't cover the pot, and we just let it boil. The ginger takes a little bit of time for it to cook, so that's why we have to just let it be for I guess I'll give it another 2 minutes, and
Sure.
then I'll add the chai to it.
Got it. And I come from Mumbai, and obviously this is all over India, but the favorite thing was to just walk up to a little stall, a thela or whatever, and just get a cutting chai. And you can request to add elaichi, the cardamom in it, or ginger in it, and it's just wonderful. That's what it's reminding me of.
Yeah, I mean, like every morning we used to really wake up and have tea all the time. So this is something that we grew up drinking also.
I see. And just like you did with the cardamom, could you show the ginger, and did you like also crush the ginger or?
Yeah, so just take an inch of ginger. You don't need to peel it. Just put it in here in the mortar and pestle and just pound it and put it in. Again, you don't need to peel or anything with it.
I see.
So while this is boiling, I'm gonna move us to start making the Suji ka halwa a little bit, so that where I know we have a little bit of time, 30 minutes, and we have a large menu. So I'm just gonna get us started with that, if that's okay, Jitesh.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you haven't put the tea in it yet, right?
I haven't. I'm gonna put it right now. So see, it's boiled over. The milk is boiling completely. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add 2 teaspoons of the
Brook Bond
Red Label.
It's just a black tea.
Yeah, just a black tea, no spice in it. It gives a really nice color and flavoring to it. So just add that in and mix it up. And then what I usually do is put it on super low, and then it just keeps going for a bit. Okay, so I would again leave it for 2 to 3 minutes and just let it keep going.
Got it.
While this is happening, I'm going to move over to the Suji ka halwa so that we can get that started. So for the halwa, the first thing that I try and do is make a chashni. So again, it won't be as thick as a chashni. So chashni is usually much more thicker. What we do is add water. So right now I have 2 cups of water. So just add that into a small pan. And then 1 cup of sugar. And again, like this is medium sweet. If you want it to be much more sweeter, feel free to add more sugar to it. But I just add this in. This is helpful because when we're making the halwa, like the sugar gets distributed much more easily.
And just your regular white sugar.
Regular white sugar, again, if you want to get healthier, you can put raw brown sugar. You can do it with cane sugar, like a less processed sugar. This one's just a regular white sugar that I'm using right now. And then we just stir it a little bit and let this keep going on medium so that it just gets mixed up.
What's a good translation for Suji ka halwa in English?
Semolina pudding is what we usually do it in the restaurant when we're trying to do it to market it to non-Indians.
Right.
So on the other side, I have just take a flat pan, and I've already roasted the suji, but what I would recommend is I'll show you a little bit of how to roast the suji. So again, for the healthy folks, you can use olive oil. I'm going to use ghee because that's how we do it.
That's healthy enough for me, yeah.
So take 1 teaspoon of ghee and just put that in your pan and let it just heat up a little bit.
Somehow semolina pudding doesn't sound as appetizing as Suji ka halwa to me.
The taste is going to be the same though, Jitesh, don't worry.
I bet. And do you think, Aakanksha, that ghee adds its own flavor that mayhaps olive oil wouldn't?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Right?
You need to have like nice ghee, and I have a ghee. It's almost done, but my grandma makes it. So, or like when I'm home, either mom or my grandma make it, and I always bring it back here so that I add a little bit for everything, and it's delicious. So the ghee over here for the semolina is hot. So I'm just going to add the suji, and this is roasted already. The regular suji would be slightly more whiter. So add this in.
How many cups of suji is that?
This is 2 cups of suji that I put in.
And what is the roasting process like?
So roasting process will be, again, you put it on low to medium heat, and then you put a little bit of ghee. So I put 1 teaspoon of ghee and then added the semolina, and then just keep stirring it. It gets burnt pretty quickly, so you want to make sure that you are stirring it continuously, and it gives it this like brownish golden brown color.
Right. For this 2 cups, how many people would it serve?
Depends on the appetite.
Or 1 for me. Okay, got it.
So typically, I mean, if you're having an 8-ounce cup, I would say it would serve about 3 to 4 people. If you're taking a double serving, then 2 people.
Yes, Praveen just commented 2 persons. Yes, I don't think this will serve 4 in my house either.
Okay, so this is how you would roast the suji. And then the water itself over here is nicely boiled. So you can see the sugar water is boiled over here. What I would do to this now is add a little bit of the raisins.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So again, like 10 raisins max. And I would add them into the water. This is again a hack that my mom taught me, that just add it in here so they pop up. So they are not dehydrated anymore. And
I
then
haven't seen this prepared like that.
Yeah, so you just add that in. And then all you have to do is add the water to the suji and then mix it up.
And for people who use just the regular gas stove, would you say medium? Are they cooking on medium?
Low to medium is what I would do. And then
so you keep adding it until the suji has absorbed all of the chashni, right?
Yeah.
Right. Chashni is the sugar water.
Exactly.
Sugar water.
Syrup, yeah. But this one has raisins in it, and I'm really excited to see that.
I think in India, raisins and nuts, usually signify a really good elevated sweet dessert. So I think it's always a nice touch to have those.
Yeah, it means the guests are coming today.
Exactly. So what I also do is I have some saffron over here. So for saffron, just for you to get the color, we just put, say, 6 to 7 strands of saffron and then some water, and then just leave it so it gives you this color, and then just add it in also.
Yes, this is definitely now elevated.
Yeah, and you definitely don't want to waste any of the saffron. So that's why you saw Aakanksha putting in with her finger also.
Absolutely. What are the proportions of the chashni? One of the question is.
The proportion, what I did was 2 cups of water and 1 cup of sugar. And again, like I mentioned earlier, if you want to make it sweeter, feel free to add more sugar to it. This gives you like a medium sugar. Both of us don't have it very, very sweet. So this one gives it a good flavoring.
I see. And another question is, can you also add cashew in it?
I don't know who asked that question, but Kaju is right here.
Praveen, you touched upon something here.
Okay. And then the last thing that we're going to do, so this one, Suji ka halwa, is done actually. So it's pretty quick to make. So if you are looking for a quick dessert, I would highly recommend Suji ka halwa. What I would do after that is take 2 or 3, 4 or 5 pods of cardamom. And then just, again, use the pestle mortar. And just put that in.
We have the chai, we have the dessert. As far as I'm concerned, the menu is done.
This is
No offense to them.
this is perfect brunch breakfast right here, right? Like this is what dreams are made of in India.
Yeah, absolutely.
So cardamom pods, I'm just going to add them in. They give a nice aroma to it. And then I roasted some kaju or cashews.
Cashews.
So I'm going to add that in as well.
Do you roast them till they are like they've changed color almost? I can see
So
some
they
dark
give a little bit of a toasty again. What you're looking for is a brownish color to it, like a light brown color. So it changes from white to brown. Feel free to use ghee to roast it or just do it without any oil. Okay.
I love how the halwa is also changing color with the saffron.
Yeah, you'll see slight orange tinges here and there, but you'll definitely, the aroma of the saffron is what is coming through also, especially if you're using really good quality saffron.
Oh, yeah. We are for the audience. I would ask you to be imaginative with the aroma.
All right, so this one's done, and I think our chai is also close to being done. So as you can see with the chai, we left it on for about 5 minutes. Right. And what happened is it created this creamy layer on top. What I would do is just give it a nice mix right here, and then switch it off. And then you're all done with the chai.
For the cashew, one question is, do you fry it in ghee or do you just heat on a dry skillet?
I heat it on a dry skillet, but again, for more aroma and more flavor, go ahead and do it in ghee, and it, of course, tastes much more delicious.
Anything with the ghee, yeah.
Oh yeah, add anything to it. All right, so the chai is ready and the halwa is ready. What I'm going to do is pour it right here for you all so you can see it. And then I'm going to move over so Uttam can make the rest of the meal for everyone while I enjoy a cup of tea.
One question from the audience is, how can you determine whether saffron is high quality? That's a good question.
It's a great question. I think, one thing is the aroma. If you are... A lot of Indian spices that you get, if you aren't able to smell it out of the packet and they don't give you the smell of the exact same spice that you're looking for, you know that the quality isn't right. Unfortunately, a lot of times, sometimes it's diluted or it's not exactly to the right standards. It might be old or something like that. So the aroma is usually like the first thing. You'll always open a spice box or spice container and always smell it first. And then, obviously the worst way to find out is when you put it into your cooking, it doesn't really give you the result that you're looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. All right, we're ready to see the halwa being served. Do you serve this at the restaurant?
We do. We actually do Saturday morning specials sometimes where we do a little bit of a brunch menu. So we do Luchi Torkari with Suji ka Halwa, or we'll do kheer and some aloo puri, those kind of things. It's not all the time that we do it because it is a little bit cumbersome for us to do specials. But yeah, we do.
What did you garnish that with just now, Aakanksha?
Just some more cashews. I just added a little bit more of the cashews.
Cashews. You can see the saffron. You can see that. You can see the white, slightly roasted cashews. You can see the black cardamom pods, and then the suji has the right kind of brownish color from it being roasted really nicely.
Uttam, how does it smell right now? How would you describe it?
Terrible. This is only for me, not for Aakanksha.
Oh man, our audience in the chat are having FOMO. They're having the fear of missing out. That's why a good reminder, if you have Seattle in your books for upcoming travel, Spice Waala. I will send you the link in the email with the recipes to the restaurant. All right, so we are switching with Uttam now.
So Uttam's going to do a torkari, which is a sweet potato vegetable. It's a dry vegetable. Would you call it a curry?
It's a dry vegetable. I don't know if we should use the term curry for this specifically, just because it doesn't have the gravy that you usually expect from a curry.
Right.
So there's a few things that I guess we can get started with. So firstly, in the recipe and the ingredients, what I had suggested was take 2 sweet potatoes and cut them into 2-inch pieces approximately. And what I would do is I would get water boiling. And then once the water is fully boiling, then just drop in the potato pieces in there. It'll take about 5-ish minutes for the potatoes to be 95% done. When you put a fork in, and I'll just show you right now. When you put a fork in, you'll see the fork goes in. There's a little bit of resistance, but not much at all. So you could technically eat this as it is right now as a snack, but this is perfect so that you don't take a lot of time to make the torkari.
Got it.
So we're going to take a pan and this one is going to go a little bit fast because since the potatoes are fully cooked and the spices that we're going to put in are not, they don't need a lot of time to cook. This one will probably go a little bit faster than you'd expect. So I'm just going to talk through it as much as I can. And then, if you have any questions, let me know. So I'm going to put some oil in there, about 2 tablespoons probably of oil, and switch it on to about medium-high heat. And we'll just let that come up to temperature a little bit. A great way to feel if your pans are hot or if the oil is hot is, as long as there's no water in the pan, feel free to just put your hand here and you can kind of feel the temperature from the oil coming up. If one other way that some cooks will check if the temperature is hot enough is they'll splash a little bit of water into the oil and you'll see it kind of react immediately. That's a little bit more dangerous. I wouldn't recommend it all the time, but definitely that's another way that you can do that. Okay. Yeah. So we're just gonna, and then obviously the last test is when your oil starts, slowly going around the pan and becoming a little bit more fluid. That's another great way to know that your oil is ready. So I'm gonna keep everything that I need close by. Okay, we're almost there. So while this is heating up, let me show you one other thing. So for the luchi, we recommended that you can either make your own dough at home, or you can buy ready-made dough. So one option that we really like is if you go to Costco and you find tortilla land tortillas. They're very, very thin, all-purpose flour made tortillas. They're not cooked at all, but those ones they're bigger than a traditional luchi for sure, but they fluff up really nicely when you fry them like a bhatura. So what I did for our dough though is I took 1 cup of flour, a pinch of salt, just to give it a little bit of flavor, and then a little bit of oil, about 1 tablespoon of oil. And then like a cookie dough, I just quickly crumbled that up just to mix in the oil into the dough. Then after that, I added some lukewarm water. You want a little bit of warm water so that the gluten starts forming in the dough. And then I kneaded it for about 5 minutes just to make sure that the dough was well, that there's enough stretching of the gluten so it forms a nice round shape. As you can see, this has been sitting for about half an hour. So you can see the dough, if you press it in, it starts retracting back and it starts retaining its shape. And then I just cover it with a damp cloth and keep it on the side. So we'll get back to this dough in a second over here.
Let me just add that I hope people were taking notes. If you weren't, then the recipe that Jitesh is going to send will have all of these instructions. So don't worry if you didn't get the instructions down.
Okay, so over here, I've got a few things that are going to go in rapid succession. So I'm going to put 1 red chili. I'm going to put 1.5 teaspoons of Paanch Phoron. Paanch
What's that
Phoron,
again?
Paanch Phoron is, it technically translates to essentially 5 masalas. There's usually cumin, fennel, kalonji, fenugreek seeds, sometimes mustard seeds. This one burns very quickly, so you need to move a little bit faster. I really like the taste of fennel, so I'm going to add a little bit more fennel, about 1 more teaspoon, 2 more teaspoons of that. Yes, I don't use measuring stuff. Don't worry about that. I usually use my hands, but it's about the same, okay? Once you can see that it's starting to change color, it's all becoming a little bit darker, I'm going to go ahead and add in some ginger. I've diced up about 2 inches of ginger, and I'm just going to saute that along with the different spices. I think ginger is a really underutilized spice in a lot of cooking, and it really brings out a really nice flavor, especially in vegetables. You know, it adds a nice bite to it, especially if it's cooked down really nicely. It's a nice surprise when you get a piece of ginger when it's cooked down. It adds a little bit of sweetness, and a little bit of flavor.
Can you get the Paanch Phoron in an Indian food store?
You absolutely can. You can go to almost any Indian grocery store will have Paanch Phoron.
Okay.
I know Indian stores have been running out a little bit because of COVID supply chain issues, but usually all of them will have it. It'll be a small packet usually. And if you do go to the checkout counter with Paanch Phoron, the cashier will usually look at you and say, you're either from Bengal or from Bihar. So, okay, so
you have attended today's Taste of India.
So you can see the ginger has started to become slightly brown also now. So I'm just going to go ahead and add in some onions. We don't need to cook the onions too much over here, so I'm not going to worry too much about, you know, sauteing them all the way till they're brown. I just want to cook off the pungency of the onions.
How many onions did you put?
This was, I know in the recipe you're going to get, it says 1 diced onion. It's really up to you, because I know onions can sometimes be controversial. You know, some people don't like a lot of onions, some people like onions. So really up to you how much you want to use. I would say anywhere between half a diced onion to 1 diced onion you want to put in.
And the heat is still medium or low?
It's still on medium heat. Now, our stove retains a lot of heat because it's electric. So, you know, I sometimes start at high and then reduce all the way to low, so that through the retention, assume it's a medium heat essentially. The other caveat I will give you is that there's no perfect way, in my opinion, to do a lot of cooking. So whatever, if you put the wrong ingredient first, you put the right one second, it won't make a difference as long as the flavor is what you like. That's the main thing.
I see. I like that not every meal is standardized. So your guests, when they come to the restaurant, they might have a little bit of a different spice or flavor every time they come.
Okay, so what you can see over here, Jitesh, is that the onions have started becoming a little more translucent. You know, the reddish color of a red onion has gone. So in my opinion, this is ready to go. So I am going to actually now just add in the potatoes that we have pre-cooked.
Are the onions not completely cooked all the way through because you want like a little bite to it, a crunch to it?
You want a little bit bite, but also if you are sauteing onions all the way till they are brown, then it's a very different flavor. You don't, and that will overpower everything else sometimes, you know, so you don't want too much of the onion, a brown onion flavor. You just want a slight bite, a little bit of translucent onions.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is almost ready. I am going to put salt to your taste. So you decide how much salt you want to put.
Oh, that orange is so pleasing to the eyes.
I would recommend at least 2 teaspoons of salt. But you know, sometimes people like it a little bit more salty, sometimes they like it a little bit less salty. So really up to you.
And is it spicy, this torkari?
This is not, no, it's not spicy. You know, there is a red chili in there more for the aroma, but you're getting a lot of sweetness from the fennel seeds, from and then you're getting the savoriness from the cumin seeds. You're getting some pungency from the mustard seeds and the kalonji. So it's a combination of a variety of different things. So this is actually essentially done. I'm going to actually switch it off right now. Add a little bit of water.
Why you add the water?
So just to continue to steam the potatoes. You know, at this stage, the other thing for you to consider is, do you want to make it mushy? And like a torkari sometimes can be very mushy, so that it's very easy to eat. Or do you want a little bit of bite, a little bit of whole potatoes? I personally prefer it when they're a little bit more firm. There's a little bit more texture to it. So that's why I switched it off this early. I'm gonna put in, I put in the water, and I'm just gonna let it steam for a little bit right now. In this steam, it will definitely get fully cooked. So I'm not too worried about that at all, okay?
Is the amount of oil you put in, is that like a set amount, or can people use more or less? Or more, actually, that's the question. It seems like this dish needs more oil, one of the question is.
It could. I mean, honestly, you know, a lot of Indian cooking is very oily. The way that we cook, and even in our restaurant, the way that we cook, we don't use that much oil.
Sure.
Especially if you're using non-stick pans, you don't really need that much oil. So I would suggest that, you know, it's really up to you. If you're serving for guests, a little bit more oil gets a little bit more flavor, gets a little bit better. If you're serving for at home for like everyday meals, I would suggest, you know, put a little bit less oil, and you just have to stir a little bit more often.
Got it.
Okay, so I'm going to move this over here, and I'm actually going to get started with the Luchi. So I've got a deep pot over here, which I've filled about a quarter with oil. I've used olive oil over here. You can use vegetable oil, you can use canola oil. I wouldn't recommend using mustard oil because it will change the flavor completely of the luchi. And for those of you that are not familiar, luchi is a thin, small piece of bread that's puffed up, essentially. Okay.
Is it like a puri? Is the closest parallel a puri?
A puri would be the closest parallel, essentially. I put this on. We're going to let it heat up till about 275 degrees to 300 degrees. So that's why I'm going to start getting it heated over here. Okay. On the other side, if there's a way for you to come to this side.
Yep.
Okay. So you can see that this is the dough that I had. It's a nice round ball right now. It feels very firm, very elastic. Sorry, not firm. And it feels like it's very malleable at this point of time, okay? So I've got a weighing scale over here next to me. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make 20-gram balls, essentially, of this. So that's 18, a little bit more, 20.
Why do you do 20?
So 20, I feel like for me is the right size to get it small enough, but thin enough also for a puri. Okay. And what you're going to do with this is I'm just going to squash it so it becomes a smooth dough again. And then I'm just going to pull and tuck. And I'm going to do that around all of the edges, essentially. So that what you're seeing over here is that this surface is becoming nice and smooth.
Right.
Okay.
Can you show us the pull and tuck slowly once more?
Yeah. So just pull and tuck underneath.
Okay.
Pull and tuck underneath. And then what you're going to do is you can form a circle with your hand, with your fingers, and just roll it in a circle. So that way you're forming a circle for yourself.
Right.
Okay. So what you'll see is that the bottom has a little bit of a pinch, so unevenness. So I'm just going to pinch that to make it smooth also. And that's that. So that's the 20-gram ball right there.
And was it white flour again?
Yeah, this is all-purpose white flour. If you want to make it healthier, you can probably get you can use whole wheat flour. I think the flavor will be very different. With whole wheat flour, it will be a little bit more firm also. So you know, that's one thing to consider in your luchi, whether it will actually be the same flavor that you want. So this dough is going to give you about 10 to 15 maybe portions of this. So for the sake of time, I'm going to stop with, you know, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 portions over here. I don't think Aakanksha and I will eat more than 6 today.
Who knows? Who knows? I'm getting so hungry just looking at all of this right now.
Oh God. Yes, I second that. This is very satisfying also to watch.
So puris in general, puri, like I call it puri, Uttam calls it luchi. But I think we use a lot of it in breakfast, brunch. We made a combination of halwa and torkari because for my home, I remember having halwa and puri as a brunch thing, and Uttam brings in really thinking about the torkari and puri. You can have puri or luchis with anything. I think we were having a conversation yesterday, and Avita mentioned that you can have it with mangsho, you can have it with any kind of like chicken curry, whatever you want, because it's such a good carrier of any dish that is just delicious to go with anything.
One thing I forgot to mention earlier is that when I kept the dough aside to rest for about half an hour, I put a little bit of oil on it. You know, luchis and puris, because you're going to fry them in oil, you don't need them to be too dry, and they're usually a little bit easier to work with when you've got oil on the dough. So
I could tell by how malleable they are that it's oiled already. Yeah.
So when one rule with dough usually is that whenever it's resting, you want to cover it with a damp towel. Okay. So just to make sure that it doesn't start forming a crust essentially as like bread sits around, right? So I'm just going to cover it with a damp towel over here, and then just going to check the temperature of the oil to see if we're going to be ready to go soon. So we're about 170, 200.
Remind us how much, what are we aiming for?
We're looking for about 275 to 300. So I'm actually going to reduce the temperature just a little bit so that by the time we roll out the luchis, it'll be ready to go. Okay, so with this, I'm going to take the first one. And if you want, what I would suggest is you can put a little bit of oil on your rolling pin.
Interesting, I see. And that's olive oil too.
That's olive oil, yeah. I think we majority use olive oil in this house, to be honest.
You can rotate whichever oil you want. So you can do vegetable oil, canola oil, any oil. I think we try and rotate oils in the house. Olive oil is something that we use quite often, but feel free to use other oils as well.
So I put a little bit of oil on the surface also, just to make it easy. And I'm just going to depress the ball, okay? I'm going to depress it on the other side also, okay? So what you're seeing, you know, even by doing this, what you're seeing is that the dough is going to retract. Right. And that's just natural because every time you work with the dough, it expands and then retracts to halfway through. So you just need to be cognizant of that. It's not going to go all the way, and that's perfectly fine. For rolling out your dough, it might not be the perfect circle, and that's perfectly fine. But usually the best way to do it is you start in one direction, and then you just quickly turn it 90 degrees to go in the other direction. And then turn it again, go 90 degrees. You can start putting a little bit more pressure. And then you can start seeing where is it not, turning out to be like an exact circle. And then you start working that area. And of course, the first one's going to be the toughest, so it doesn't look anything like a circle, and that's perfectly fine. Okay. So, and then the other thing to think about with luchis is how thin do you want it? How big do you want it? Right. Honestly, I prefer a little bit of chewiness to my luchi, and then it gives you the nice stretch and pull when you are working with it. So I'm going to leave this here for right now and move on to the next one.
How big do you aim them to be? What's the diameter here?
Yeah, so that's a good way to show it actually. You know?
Palm of your hand, good, yeah.
Palm of your hand, and then you can also start seeing my hand through it, you know, from a translucency standpoint.
Let's see.
Okay.
Got it.
Okay, and I'm just going to do one more, and then we can start frying these.
This is so interesting just to watch. For our audiences, if it's too fast for you, just enjoy the process for now, and you can always try at your own sweet time when you see the recipes.
Jitesh, I expect to see you trying this later on today, huh?
I definitely want to try.
Okay, so I'm just going to temp the oil again once more, just see where we are. Okay, yeah, we're past the 300 mark. So I'm just going to start frying one puri and see how it works out. The one thing to consider with this puri is that as soon as you put it in, you need to start depressing it in the oil so that it starts fluffing up, okay? And puris don't, luchis don't always fluff up, so don't worry if it doesn't. So as you can see, I'm just depressing it slowly on each side. And you can see that the translucency is coming through. You know, you can see the bubbles forming. And then I'm just going to flip it and do the same thing on the other side. And then you're going to cook this for as long as, you know, like I said, I prefer it to be a little bit chewy. So you don't want to go past a brown. You know, that means it will be pretty hard and not as tasty as it can be if it's nice and chewy and light.
I see.
Okay. So it's turned color to a light brown over here. So I'm going to start getting ready for transferring it out.
And then it's fully fluffy now.
Yeah, you can just take any container any dish that you want, which has a paper towel on it so that it can attract all of the oil and just put it on that, okay?
I see.
And let's just do another one just to see.
This is fun just to watch. This is nice.
You can see this one's going to fluff up a little bit more than the other one.
Yeah. Yeah, this one was quicker.
Once it's fluffed up, you know, you don't need to depress it anymore because it's done its job of fluffing up essentially. And then I'm just going to flip it just to make sure the other side is nice and fluffy also. Yeah.
Wonderful.
So just, you know, I'm just going to wait for just a second more just to make sure that the nice color comes through and we're cooking the dough fully. So
the marker is the changing of the color, is it? Not just the fluffiness.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that is your luchis right there. So let's just check in on, so I've switched this off right now. We're not going to do any more for today's session, but I've switched that off. Let's just check in on the Torkari and see what it looks like over here. The one thing I forgot to mention earlier is that it is always nice when you put a little bit of sugar in Bengali cooking right at the end. So I'm just going to put a little bit of a pinch of sugar just to enhance the flavors a little bit. And I'm just going to transfer it out now.
So you can very new, very different for a Punjabi to watch adding sugar in the sabzi. Or the
it always just brings out the flavors just a little bit more. And so you can see, like, you know, this is not mushy. It's still a little bit firm, which I prefer. You can do it so that it is a little bit more mushy if you prefer. But, you know, I'm just going to do this for the sake of the camera. But, you know, each one is breaking apart in my finger, you know, so it's fully cooked. There's no problem from that standpoint. And it's going to be still tender and you're still going to be able to pick it up with your luchi.
That looks amazing. Aakanksha, how does it smell there?
Oh, delicious. I'm so hungry.
Oh, these look wonderful. Look at that. And the bright orange of the Torkari. Oh my God.
There you go.
This is wonderful. To the audience, type in the comment what do you feel about this Indian brunch. Indian brunch needs to catch on more in American
I
brunch.
know.
I agree.
I feel.
I agree.
One question is, without a thermometer, can we test the oil with a bit of dough?
You can't. So one way to do that is when your dough starts floating, then you know that it's hot enough essentially, because when I dropped in the Luchi over here also, it went straight to the bottom. And if the oil is not hot enough, the dough will soak up all of that oil and just stay at the bottom. So one way. The other way you can see it is that you can see honestly, like if I put my hand here right now, I can feel the heat. It's not overwhelming or anything like that. It's just like for this nice winter weather, it's nice and hot, warm and hot, but it's not overpowering. So that's just another way. The other way is if you, like I said, if you splash just a little bit of water, just like a drop, you'll see it sputter. And that's another way to know that the oil is ready to go.
There are audience members ready to book a flight just to have this. This is so wonderful. Actually, we never do this, but you know what? Let's do it for the first time. Can I ask either of you or both of you to just try it out for our audience?
Sure.
I'm
happy to oblige.
Aakanksha was like, I wasn't even going to wait till you asked, but now it's official.
I'm going to.
And look at the color of that masala chai. It's like deep brown. I love it.
I'm going to take chai grabber. I'm just going to dig in right here and do this.
Amazing.
I don't think
Tell us about it. And give us your unbiased opinion.
It's delicious.
I don't know if you just missed that or not, but Aakanksha just put her Luchi into the halwa also.
The halwa. Oh, yes, absolutely. All right. Firstly, congratulations on the sweet, cute matching sweaters that you have for Spice Waala.
That's our logo right there.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Thank you so much. I don't even know how to begin this. Like, thank you so much. This was such a trip, like just to watch you guys just cook and switch between each other. And now we have it all final made. I want you to send me a picture later on that I want to include. Thank you so much, Uttam and Aakanksha.
Oh, thank you for this opportunity, Jitesh, Amita, Banerjee, and everyone else at the National Indo-American Museum. Thank you so much for this opportunity. The work that you all are doing to showcase the Indian heritage in America is fantastic. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. I really, really hope, and I know that the audience, at least here, are going to make Spice Waala the first stop when they reach Seattle this time, the next time they are there. To our audience here, thank you so much for joining us today. I have a link in the chat box to NIAM's donation page. This program was free, brought to you for free for everyone, as always. But any amount that you can afford to donate, from 15 to 100, will go into organizing similar programs and bringing equally talented chefs and Indian American restaurant owners to you right at your doorstep. Please consider donating us a small amount. And my name is Jitesh Jaggi. You will have the recipes, I promise. You have my email IDs already. I really, really want to encourage you to try out Spice Waala in person, or if you are in the Seattle area, to order in. Uttam and Aakanksha, once again, thank you so much.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
All right. Enjoy the meal. I will let you go and make the rest of the Luchi, and I'm going to make a mess in my own kitchen.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Goodbye.